Question. All the masters of the Chan school deny the Pure Land. What do you say to that? Answer. The masters of the Chan school all transmit nothing but the Buddha mind. All their sayings and explanations point upward to enlightenment. You have practiced Chan for many years and you still do not know this? If so, then all your explanations are merely defective views that damage the Chan school. Question. How dare ignorant beings all over the world be so arbitrary? The sincere words of the patriarchs are absolutely reliable. The sixth patriarch, Yinguang, said, when people in the East commit wrong, they recite the Buddha's name to gain rebirth in the Western Pure Land. When people in the West, i.e., those who are already in the Pure Land, commit wrong, they will recite the Buddha's name to gain rebirth in which land? Zhao said, I do not like hearing the word Buddha, and again, if a senior monk recites the name of the Buddha just once, he should rinse his mouth for 3 days. Many patriarchs of the Chan school have spoken in this manner. What do you say to that? Answer. The sixth patriarch was pointing directly to enlightenment, leading people to apprehend their own minds. You have taken his words as maxims for explaining doctrines or arguments about methods of practice. Like the proverbial mistaking a donkey saddlebone for your grandfather's jawbone. 29. How wrong can one be? Breaking the delusions of attachment to emptiness and finally ignorance itself. As long as they progress in their practice, they cannot possibly commit wrong. As to the question of the land in which they aspire to be reborn, within this space, those who have not thoroughly cut off false thoughts and perceptions and attain rebirth in reliance upon the Buddha's compassion while still bearing the burden of karma will be reborn in the Pure Land where worldlings and sages dwell together. Fan Sheng Tongju Jingtu. After a lifetime in that land, the delusions of thoughts and perceptions are thoroughly extinguished. Like a snowflake that melts away before it even reaches the furnace, so do all vulgar thoughts cease when virtuous people come together. When they have completely purified thoughts and perceptions, they then gain rebirth in the Pure Land of expedient means with remainder. Fangbian Yu Jingtu. Having partially eliminated ignorance, they then attain rebirth in the Pure Land of true recompense and non-obstruction. Shabao Wu Zhongai Jingtu. When they have thoroughly eliminated all ignorance, then they attain rebirth in the Pure Land of eternally quiescent light. Changji Guang Jingtu. If this is so for those who practice here, how much more so for those who practice in that land, i.e., the Pure Land? Why do you think too much about the place of non-production so that you obstruct yourself and others, and remain unwilling to seek rebirth in the Pure Land? Refusing to eat because you fear choking, you will lose your very life. Among all the idiotic people under heaven, is there anyone worse than you? So you know how Zhao said, I do not enjoy hearing the word Buddha. Why do you not quote the rest of the text? A monk asked. Are we then to consider the master as only human or not? And Zhao answered, a Buddha. 33. You only wish to rely on his saying. If one recites the Buddha's name once, he ought to rinse his mouth for 3 days. But why not also rely on this? A monk asked, if the master were to receive a great king who came to give offerings, how would he respond to him? Zhao said, page 364, recite the Buddha's name. Why do you not refer to the story where a monk asks Zhao whether the Buddhas of the 10 directions themselves have a teacher and Zhao answers yes? When the monk asked who is the teacher of all Buddhas, Zhao replied, Amitabha Buddha. You assert that all the masters of the Chan lineages mostly have sentences and phrases like this. You do not know that a Chan master's words spoken in response to a specific situation is called the opportune point, or the turning word. The question contains the answer. And the answer contains the question. You do not know about reversing the illumination to return to the light, or to go to oneself for teaching. Up until now, you have only been greedily devouring wine dregs and chasing clods of dirt for such a long time. I have been a monk now for over 30 years. And everyone has been propagating phrases like, ought to, rinse their mouths, or, I don't like to hear, with a single voice. But I have yet to hear anyone say one word about to be human by Buddha, or repay kindness. By reciting the Buddha's name, or Amitabha is the teacher of all Buddhas of the 10 directions. But let me put in a word here, if you are to regard the one as true and reliable, then the other must also be true and reliable. How can you say that the disparaging remarks are reliable but the supportive remarks are inadmissible? To say that the one is reliable while the other is inadmissible is self-contradictory. As to Zhaozhou's words, they all lead back to one's original nature. I don't like to hear the word Buddha and recite the Buddha's name are equal, since they both count as turning words. Only if one can achieve direct consciousness of one's own mind can one know that Zhaozhou is communicating what is beyond feeling, that his speech transcends the ordinary. There is not enough time to recite the Buddha's name diligently. But if one is unable to see Zhaozhou directly, then it would be better to recite the Buddha's name as one's primary means of self-cultivation than to rely on disparaging the Buddha as a means of gaining the advantage in a debate. The result of Buddha recitation is rebirth in the Pure Land, escape from the cycle of birth and death, and a guarantee of attaining Buddhahood in the future. The result of disparaging the Buddha is that one slanders the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In the present life one accumulates a mountain of guilt, while all of one's good fortune and wisdom melt away. At the end of life one falls into the Avicii hell to suffer for long kalpas of time. The difference between the benefit of Buddha recitation and the harm that will result from disparaging the Pure Land, the profit and loss, is as great as the distance between the heavens and the ocean floor. Generally, people today are of meager fortune and shallow wisdom, with heavy karma and profound impediments toward that which could benefit them. They act as if they were hearing slander, and toward that which inflicts harm they act as if it were the crown of the whole body. The words and the opportune points of the masters are all like this, they never tire of devising explanations. You assert that the earnest words of all the masters are completely reliable. Why do you not rely on Baizhang, Weihai, 749-814, when he says, Buddha recitation is the most secure form of practice? And why do you not rely on him when he established rules for praying over a sick monk, or dispatching a deceased monk, stating that all of the merits of the service were to be dedicated toward attaining rebirth in the Pure Land? Will you argue that Baizhang only ordered the dead to gain rebirth, and did not order the living to seek rebirth? Also, why do you not rely on the 14th Indian Patriarch, page 365, Nagarjuna Bodhisattva? The Tathagata predicted that he would gain rebirth, and in the undersea palace of the Naga king, he brought forth the Avatamsaka Sutra. He composed a broad variety of treatises, but praised the Western, Pure Land, in particular, calling it the path of easy practice and quick arrival, in his Dasabhumika Vibhasa Sastra. Also, why do you not rely on the 12th Patriarch Asvagosa Bodhisattva? At the end of his awakening of faith, he demonstrates the greatest of all expedient means in order to lead people to contemplate the Buddha and seek rebirth in the West, to wait constantly on Amitabha Buddha, and never regress. Also, why do you not rely on the second Patriarch Ananda and the first Patriarch Kasyapa, who knit together the Tripitaka along with all of the Pure Land Sutras? If the Pure Land teachings are deficient and can harm the world, then how is it that they did not know the good from the bad, but handed them down to later generations, bringing guilt upon themselves? Also, all of the Mahayana Sutras praise the Pure Land, while the Hinayana Sutras do not say the first word about it. Will you claim that the Mahayana Sutras are deficient in their teaching? Again, when the Buddha preached the Amitabha Sutra, all the Buddhas of the 6 directions appeared, numberless as the sands of the Ganges. And putting forth one long and expansive tongue, they counseled faith in this sutra. Will you claim that all the Buddhas of the 6 directions passed these erroneous teachings down to humanity, creating, for themselves, a mire of guilt? If you say that devotees cannot fail to put their faith in the 6th patriarch, Yinguang, Zhaozhou, and so on, then how much more must they put their faith in Nagarjuna, Asvaghosha, Ananda, Kasyapa, Sakamuni, Amitabha, all the Buddhas of the 6 directions, and all the Mahayana scriptures? However, if you assert that all the Buddhas, all the patriarchs, and all the scriptures are not trustworthy, then how much more must you say this of the 6th patriarch and Zhaozhou? You see what is close at hand but not what is distant. You know the small but you do not know the great. You are like a rustic who is in awe of the county magistrate but does not know of the emperor's majesty. A small child will pick up a copper coin as soon as he spots it. Yet he will walk past the wish-fulfilling jewel without paying it any mind. Do you even know about Yangming, Yanshao, 904–975, s. 4 alternatives, see Liao Jian, which speaks of the potential benefits and harms, gains and losses that accrue from either having or not having Chan or the Pure Land. Now, Yangming was a manifest body, Washan, of Amitabha. So how could he be willing to pass this mire of guilt down to people, to slander the wheel of orthodox dharma, to mislead the people, and to cut off the seeds of Buddhahood? He replied, Yangming's 4 alternatives is too tangled and incoherence to be considered an adequate teaching. Why do I say this? He claims, having both Chan and the Pure Land, one is like a tiger with horns. Such a person will be a teacher in the present life, and a Buddha or patriarch in future lives. If we speak like this, then, we observe that, among those in the Chan school nowadays there are many types of people. And everyone knows who is practicing Nianfo. There are also some who live in the Buddha recitation hall and recite the Buddha's name for many long years. Are they all capable of being teachers in the present life? And Buddhas and patriarchs in future lives? Also, the verse says, lacking Chan but having the Pure Land, 10,000 out of 10,000 who practice it will go. However, having seen Amitabha, why worry about not attaining enlightenment? Now, among the foolish, page 366, men and women of today, you find some practicing Nianfo exclusively everywhere you go. However, there has yet to be seen one who manifests auspicious omens at the time of death, or whom the Buddha comes to meet and conduct to rebirth in the West. Thus, we can be sure that Yangming's 4 alternatives is a deficient teaching. I said, how could you have gobbled down the whole fruit and not tasted any of its flavor? Yangming's 4 alternatives is a distillation of the scriptures and a divining mirror for practice. First, however, we must agree on the meaning of Chan, Pure Land, having, and lacking. After that, we can analyze the text and know that each word is as heaven and earth devised, without one single inappropriate word, and without one single word that could be altered. For many decades now I have heard the Chan masters give talks, and they are all like you, not a little extraordinary, with views like theirs. It is not surprising that their Chan and their Pure Land practice both grow more feeble by the day. Question: What do we call Chan and Pure Land, having and lacking? Please condescend to make this clear. Answer. Chan is a person's inherent suchness and Buddha nature, or, as the Chan school puts it, one's original face before one's mother and father were born. The words of this school, by themselves, do not reveal it, so they lead people to practice and attain it for themselves. That is why they speak in this way. The truth is devoid of subject and object. It is serene and illuminating spiritual knowledge apart from discursive thought, the pure, true substance of mind. The Pure Land means to believe in Amitabha's vows and to hold to his name, seeking rebirth in the West. It does not one-sidedly mean mind-only Pure Land. Weixin Jingtu, or the Amitabha of one's own self-nature, Zixing Matuo, to have Chan, is to practice and penetrate to the limits of your ability, with thoughts serene and passions stilled, and to thoroughly see your original face before your father and mother were born, with a luminous mind to see one's own nature. To have the Pure Land means to genuinely generate the mind of enlightenment, to engender faith, to make vows, to hold to the recitation of the Buddha's name, and to seek rebirth in the West. Chan and Pure Land, by themselves only, have to do with teachings and principles. Having Chan, and having the Pure Land, refer to capabilities and cultivation. Teachings and principle are always the same. A Buddha cannot add to them, nor can a worldling detract from them. Capabilities and cultivation must give rise to practice based on teachings, and when practice reaches its limit, then one attains principle and causes its true existence to manifest in all. Although the two phrases, i.e., Chan and having Chan, Pure Land, and having Pure Land, look similar, in reality they are very different. One must attend carefully to details. One cannot stop at generalities. If one practices Chan without reaching enlightenment, or is only partially enlightened, then one cannot call this having Chan. If one practices Nianfo, then none of the following may properly be called having Pure Land, grasping one-sidedly at mind-only Pure Land, and not really believing in the vows of Amitabha, having faith in the vows that is not wholly sincere, and practicing in a perfunctory manner, practicing diligently while one's mind is still in love with the dust of this world, seeking only a better rebirth in a wealthy or noble household so as to enjoy the pleasures of the 5 desires, merely seeking rebirth in heaven, page 367, so as to enjoy the pleasures of the gods, seeking ordination as a cleric in the next life so as to be enlightened 1,000-fold upon hearing the teachings a single time, attain the quintessence of the Buddha Dharma, 45 propagate the teachings and the way, and universally benefit all beings. Question. Where is the fault in leaving the household life to become a monk or a nun in order to propagate the teachings and benefit all beings? Please clarify this. Answer. If one has already cut off all views and thoughts, penetrated the cycle of birth and death, mounted the wheel of the great vow, in order to show beings the defiled world, evangelize those above and convert those below, and carry sentient beings over to liberation, then it is all right. However, if in spite of having wisdom and aspirations one has still not cut off views and thoughts, then while he may be free of delusion at the beginning of his life, it will be difficult to maintain this state to the end of several more rebirths. One may be able to spread the teachings, but without having realized the unborn, the seeds of passion will remain, and it will be difficult to avoid delusion while still in contact with sense objects and involved in conditionality. There is not even 1 or 2 in 10,000 who can attain enlightenment quickly while following the delusions of the sensory realm. Truly, there are many who roam from one delusion to the next, unable to extricate themselves, floating along and sinking for endless ages. Because of this, the Tathagata leads people to rebirth in the Pure Land, where they can see the Buddha and hear the teachings, and realize the forbearance of the unborn. Afterward, riding on the power of the Buddha's compassion and the wheels of their own aspiration, they can re-enter the Saha world and bring other sentient beings to liberation. They will always progress and never regress, always gain, never lose. Other schools permit those who have not yet cut off all views and thoughts to propagate the Dharma in this world, but the Pure Land school would never ever allow this. Most people in the world think that practicing Chan is having Chan, and that practicing Nianfo is having Pure Land. Not only do they not know Chan and Pure Land, they do not even know the meaning of these phrases. Failing to live up to the kind of compassionate mind of Yangming and the Buddhas of old, they cut off a shortcut out of suffering for later generations of practitioners. Deceiving themselves and others, what extreme damage they cause. As when people say, to mistake the balance point of a steelyard. Huoran Dingpan, if there is even one hair's width of error, then it might as well be, as far apart as heaven and earth. He said, now I have an idea of the meaning of Chan, Pure Land, having, and lacking. Now please explain in detail the profound meaning of these 4 verses. I said, the lines, having both Chan and the Pure Land, one is like a horned tiger. Such a person will be a teacher in the present life, and a Buddha, or patriarch in future lives, refer to a person who is thoroughly enlightened in the Chan school, who has illuminated his mind and seen his nature, and who has entered deeply into the scriptures so as to understand the Tathagata's teachings both direct and expedient. From among all Buddhist teachings, such a person takes the teaching of having faith in Amitabha's vows and practicing Nianfo as the quick path, and the correct practice for benefiting both himself and others. When the Meditation Sutra speaks of practitioners who attain the highest rebirth in the highest grade, who read and chant the Mahayana scriptures, and understand the primary meaning, this is the kind of person to which it refers. Such a person possesses great wisdom, will be skilled in debating, and the mere mention of his name will strike terror into the hearts of heretical demons and partisans of other teachings. Like a tiger with horns, he will be fierce and in a class by himself. When someone comes to him for teaching, he will be able, page 368, to instruct him according to his capacities. In response to one who is capable of the dual practice of Chan and Pure Land, he will guide him in the dual practice of Chan and Pure Land. In response to one who is capable only of Pure Land practice, he will guide him exclusively in Pure Land practice. Regardless of whether they have superior, middling, or inferior roots, his grace will cover them all without exception. Could such a one not be a teacher of gods and humans? At the end of his life, the Buddha will come for him, and he will attain the highest grade of rebirth. After only a brief moment, his lotus will open, and he will see the Buddha, and attain to the forbearance of the unborn. At the very least he will attain to the first abiding of the perfect teachings, and will quickly vault over all other positions to attain the enlightenment of equality. Within the first abiding of the perfect teachings, one is able to manifest one's body in 100 world systems as a Buddha. So how much more will one gain many times in eminence? As one progresses directly to the 41st position of the enlightenment of equality? This is why, the verse says, in the next life one will be a Buddha or a patriarch. The line, lacking Chan but having the Pure Land, 10,000 out of 10,000 who practice it will go, having seen Amitabha. Why worry about not attaining enlightenment? Refers to a person who has not yet illuminated their mind or seen their nature but who resolves to do so, upon rebirth in the Pure Land. Many long kalpas ago, The Buddha made his great vow that he would gather in all sentient beings, as a mother remembers her children. Therefore, if one can conscientiously and sincerely think of the Buddha, as a child recalls its mother, then the ways of that person's entreaty and the Buddha's response will coincide. And they will benefit from the Buddha's ingathering of all beings. Those who strenuously cultivate samadhi and wisdom will of course attain rebirth. Just so, those who have committed the 5 unpardonable deeds and the 10 evil acts but, oppressed by suffering at the end of their lives, experience great shame and call out the Buddha's name 10 times, or even just once before death, can also count on the Buddha to meet them and conduct them to rebirth. Is this not indeed 10,000 out of 10,000 who practice it will go? However, even if such a person does not recite the Buddha's name very many times, he or she can still reap this great benefit because of their fierce determination. You cannot compare the sheer number of repetitions between one such as this and another who recites the name often but listlessly. One born in the West, having seen the Buddha and heard the preaching, even though there may be differences in how quickly one progresses, still one is then part of the holy stream and will never again return to samsara. According to the depth of one's roots, one will attain to all of the stages of the path either gradually or suddenly. Having done this, it goes without saying that one is enlightened. This is what, having seen Amitabha, why worry about not attaining enlightenment, means. As to the line, having Chan but lacking the Pure Land, 9 out of 10 will stray from the road. When the realm of shadows appears before them, they will instantly follow it, even though a person may be thoroughly enlightened and may have illuminated the mind and seen into their own true nature within a Chan lineage, they still cannot easily cut off the disturbances of views and thoughts. One must practice continually for a long period of time and bring oneself to the point where one is completely and utterly purified. Only then can one cut off samsara and find escape. It does not matter if only a single hair's breadth remains to be cut off. One is still a hair's breadth away from complete purification. One will revolve in the 6 paths as before and escape will be difficult. The ocean of samsara is deep and the road to wisdom long. Page 369. The end of their lives comes, and they still have not made it home. Out of 10 who have attained great enlightenment, 9 are like this, and that is why the verse says, 9 out of 10 will stray from the road. Stray here means to lose precious time. In common parlance, it is to be delayed. The phrase, the realm of shadows, refers to the period between the end of one life and the beginning of the next. At the end of one's life, one enters a realm in which all the power of the good and evil karma accumulated over long kalpas manifests. When this realm manifests then, in the twinkling of an eye, one goes to rebirth in a good or evil path as determined by the most powerful karma, whether good or bad. That manifests in that instant, and one has no power to determine the outcome. Like someone who is heavily in debt, the strongest karmic force will lead one to fall one way or the other. Wuzu, Shi, Jia again as Dongpo, and Kaotang. Shan, Qing returns to be Lugong. Is this similar to their prior existences? That is why the verse says, when the realm of shadows appears before them, they will instantly follow it. The pronunciation and meaning of the word shadows, yin, is the same as the word skandhas, yin, and means to cover and conceal. From this we can explain that the power of karma covers up one's true nature so that it cannot manifest. The word instantly, pi, is pronounced like the word pi, and means, in the twinkling of an eye. Some take the words, go astray, quo, to be, err, quo, and the